Hello everyone, I'm Quentin Deulles, Director for Green Healthy Buildings at the European Copper Institute, and today I'm pleased to welcome Victoria Taranou from BPIE to our fourth webinar of the Zero Emission Buildings Academy. That's a partnership between Leonardo Energy by European Copper Institute and the Building Performance Institute Europe and the European Construction Technology Platform to discuss all topics related to the deployment of zero-emission buildings and decarbonization of the building stock. That is a very important objective of the EU to achieve climate goals, but also many other goals. So today we will speak about not only buildings, but neighborhoods. So to take a larger scale to make sure we decarbonize buildings, there is a strong potential to do it, to have a more effective approach and to bring additional benefits. And that's for this that I'm very pleased to welcome Victoria to present to us some results from EU projects that she led for BPIE. So without more introduction, I will directly keep the floor to Victoria for our presentation. At the end of our presentation, we will have time for questions. So I remind that you can introduce this question via the Q&A function. Thank you.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for the introduction. So I will share the screen in presentation mode. Yes, so hi everyone. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, indeed, today I will speak about the sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. And mainly I will focus on the policy frameworks that can enable their scale up or some barriers and ways to overcome these barriers with policy recommendations. So first of all, the neighborhood approach, it's gaining momentum. It has been recognized in the current EPBD, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive negotiations that are taking place, and the European Parliament, in their version, has introduced this approach to they call it a neighborhood and district approaches to building renovations. And they recommended their introduction into the national building renovation plans, and they acknowledge the various multiple benefits of this neighborhood approach, such as that you engage the whole community ecosystem, that it's a holistic approach. It takes into account like the integration with the transportation system and the other systems like energy, water, green, etc. And then it can provide multiple benefits in terms of potential synergies and energy savings, and finally benefits for the end users, such as improved air quality or alleviation of energy poverty. So this is what is currently proposed by the European Parliament in their version of the Energy Performance Building Directive. It's still not concluding, so negotiations are ongoing, and let's see how this will be incorporated in the final version of the directive. So today I will talk about not only the neighborhood approach, but the concept of sustainable plus energy neighborhoods that we developed within Synikia project. It's a Horizon project, which part like BPIE is taking part, and TNU is leading the project, and there are many 13 partners from 6 countries. What is the sustainable plus energy neighborhood concept? First of all, it's a very highly energy efficient buildings. So often I heard this false dichotomy is either we do things at building scale or at neighborhood scale, and that neighborhood scale could compromise somehow the ambition at the building scale. This is not the case. we start with highly efficient buildings, first of all, and then we ensure this surplus of energy at the neighborhood scale. So the approach, how we quantify and define the SPEN, the Sustainable Plus Energy Neighborhoods, in the project is similar to how it's quantified the energy balance for positive energy buildings. But in this case, the geographic and virtual boundaries are not the building, but the neighborhood. And it includes, of course, shared assets in terms of energy production, energy storage, in order to achieve the surplus of energy. And but it's not only about energy. So a very strong focus of the SPEN concept is the social sustainability and engagement of the neighbors, of the community, to create this community feeling. So there are all these like shared spaces where things can happen. Also shared activities, shared services, such as, I don't know, shared EV bikes. So shared spaces where they can do community things. There is this co-design and engagement of the users at all stages of the project. So we take into account the occupant satisfaction, and then finally they would get an improved indoor environmental quality and many other benefits at the neighborhood scale. And that is again also accompanied by this energy performance at the building level, that it's not only producing a surplus of energy, but it's also smart management of this. It's the optimization of the energy use with peak shaving, flexibility, and you aim to maximize the self-consumption of this produced energy. So again, SPEN is embedded in an urban and regional energy system. And what is an advantage of the neighborhood approach, that you can look at the potential of renewable energy at a scale that is convenient to adjust to the local needs. So it's a good scale for municipalities or developers to look of what renewable energy is available, not only in terms of production, but also storage. For example, if there is a lake, you can use water heat storage, and if there is a lot of roof available, then of course PV. But it's not like one solution fits all. Like this neighborhood scale is the right scale to adjust the technological solutions to the potential that is existing, and also to adjust to the local socioeconomic or like heritage, all these kind of aspects. And then again, SPEN it starts with the highly efficient buildings, because this positive energy balance at the neighborhood scale is not possible to achieve if there's not a positive energy balance at the building scale. So all our projects go beyond minimum requirements in terms of new construction or renovations, and they achieve positive energy buildings. And then again, there is this in the use of the energy, there are smart systems, there's a demand side flexibility. So we aim to maximize the self-consumption of the produced energy, and also to optimize how in which way the produced energy is accounted also on the bills of the different buildings and the different users. All of this is done with modeling and optimization methods. And then also it takes into account the integration of the neighborhood into the mobility system. And here come in place, of course, the electrical vehicles with EV charging stations. And in a project we have shared shared EV services, or shared electrical bikes. And then also SPEN is making use of advanced materials and is focusing on low carbon solutions. And finally, it aims at ensuring this improved indoor environmental quality, the well-being, not only at the building scale, but also within the neighborhood. So again, going back to the concept, the advantage of having a neighborhood approach towards compared to a singular building approach, either being for new construction or renovations, is that you have the advantage of shared assets. And with these shared assets, you can achieve, you can start with sufficiency measures. So these are design measures in order to reduce the build space, by sharing spaces, by sharing services, by sharing assets, sharing I don't know, heat pumps that are the neighborhood scale, and not every apartment with its own heat pump, or shared energy storage, shared EV charging, shared PV production, etc. So all these shared assets can contribute to sufficiency, and also it can also contribute to achieving different environmental and social multiple benefits, which we are trying we are quantifying our projects. And then the second, so you start with these design measures, with these sufficiency measures. And then the next step is to look at energy efficiency measures. And here we talk about mainly in the building scale. So we talk about positive energy buildings, which are highly insulated, and with if there are systems at the apartment level, then they are also efficient ones. And then only the last step is to provide the surplus of renewable energy and the smart system in order to maximize, to take into account, to maximize self-consumption, and to provide also demand side flexibility. So I'm sorry for the background noise. So in the project, we have 4 demos, and so we have 4 neighborhoods located in Norway, the Netherlands, Austria, and Spain. And we chose these locations also because of different climates, but also different regulatory and market contexts. And today I will indeed explain a bit the differences in how the EU directives have been implemented in these 4 different countries. So these different implementations can either encourage the scale up of SPENs, or it can hinder them. And for these 4 neighborhoods, we have, as I said, we are monitoring their performance with KPIs both at the building and neighborhood level. And just to make it a bit more tangible from the kind of a theoretical concept into how the projects, what it means in terms of a project. One of our demos in Austria is it's a mix of new construction and renovation. It's mainly social housing, and the municipality is a partner of the project, and some of the apartments even are dedicated to residents with special needs. And besides the residential function, there is also a kindergarten. So it's important to have a mix of building uses, because this is very good, because they have different consumption patterns throughout the day, and this makes it optimizes the self-consumption. And then in terms of passive systems, again, these are very well insulated buildings with triple glazing, and there is a PV power plant. And in terms of heating, it's a ground and wastewater source heat pump. at the neighborhood scale. And then there are several innovations in how the energy is managed. So there is the digital cloud hub with gray box models. Different scenarios have been simulated before the renovation works. And then there is smart EV charging at the neighborhood level. And after the works are ready, there will be this the modeling to optimize the energy use, and finally the final users will be informed with the FeedMe app that is also developed within the project. So again, which are the benefits of having a neighborhood approach compared to like individual buildings is I mentioned before, you can really look at the local specifics of which are the renewable energy, which is the renewable energy potential, because it can be various types of renewable energy, not necessarily PV, and also in terms of storage, and then there are these shared assets for production of energy, for storage, and EV charging, and even car sharing possibilities. So there is also the mix of building typologies. I mentioned the kindergarten in the Austrian, the residential use in Austria. In another demo in Spain, we have also residential with a medical center. So again, these are buildings with complementary use patterns. Some use the energy in the day, some others in the night. So this is very good to optimize the self-consumption. And then there is this smart system and energy management system that so once so there is this excess of energy, there is this renewable energy production, and then you need to assign different shares of this renewable energy to the different buildings that are part of the SPEN, and you have to assign the different shares. And this is based on the previous modeling, and in order to optimize the benefits they can get on the bills, depending on their consumption, on their needs, and then also depending on when they use energy. And so all of these can be further optimized when the building is in use. And here, once the renovation works or the new construction is finalized, there is the need for this energy manager. So there is also a possibility, there is a new business case opportunity for companies to jump in. And then besides sharing this energy within the neighborhood, if there is this excess of energy, then this can be sold outside the neighborhood within a renewable energy community or a citizen energy community, or even to the grid. So in our latest publication, we looked into the different policy frameworks in the 4 locations of our demos, in order to see how the Renewable Energy Directive mainly was implemented in and also the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive have been implemented in the 4 different countries, and if there are some drivers and barriers. And we provided also policy recommendations. And so which are indeed this thing of producing energy collectively and using it collectively is something rather new, and there needs to be legal frameworks that allow neighbors to do this. And in the previous Renewable Energy Directive of 2018, that has been implemented until now, there is this notion of jointly acting renewable self-consumers. I will refer to it as collective self-consumers to make it a bit easier. But so what is the for the in general, a self-consumer is this prosumer that has some PV panels and is using this energy for their own consumption, right? But there is a different, in the directive, there is a difference between an individual self-consumer and a jointly acting a self-consumer. So if there is a single family house with PV panels that is using, like it's one owner of PV panels and is using his own electricity, then it's individual self-consumer. If this is an apartment block with multiple owners of these PV panels, then these are jointly acting self-consumers. And in the directive, it's foreseen that this is possible only within one apartment building. But some countries such as Spain or France, we'll see later, implemented it a bit in a larger scale and allow this sharing within 2-kilometer range, which would allow projects such as SPEN. So again, in the directive, in the Renewable Energy Directive of 2018, that is the one that has been implemented until now, and we looked how the different countries implemented it, and this is what we will discuss today. They acknowledge that adding this option of jointly acting renewable self-consumers, this could contribute to alleviate energy poverty. And but this is only one possible legal framework. So this collective self-consumption or jointly acting renewable self-consumers, what is the biggest advantage of this option is that it's not a legal entity. So the neighbors can share energy that they produce collectively without being registered as a legal entity, while the other two options, such as renewable energy community or citizen energy community, they do require to be a legal entity and have a very strictly regulated governance, and it's strictly regulated who can be part of it. So I mentioned earlier this collective self-consumption. It was foreseen already in the Renewable Energy Directive of 2018. It was foreseen for one apartment building with several apartment owners, but in some countries such as Spain or France, they extended this to a 2-kilometer range. When we talk about the renewable energy community, this is already a legal entity. It's limited only to natural persons, to SMEs or municipalities. So the goal is, and it does not include large companies. So the goal is to give access to renewable energy production to smaller actors. And it does have geographical boundaries, which again was implemented a bit differently in different countries. Like in Austria, it's linked with the low medium voltage grid. In some other countries, it's within a municipality, or I think in Flanders, it's case by case approach. So every request is analyzed separately. So when we talk about collective self-consumption or renewable energy community, since they are part of the Renewable Energy Directive, it's both about heat and electricity. So it regards both. While when we talk about the citizen energy community, this one is foreseen in the electricity market design directive, and this one is limited only to electricity production or sharing. So this is the biggest difference between a REC and a citizen energy community. They both require a legal entity. They are both limited to natural persons, SMEs. Have governance requirements. But another big difference is that how it was implemented. The citizen energy community does not have the geographic limitation. It's sometimes the whole country or even cross-border. So it really does not encourage this like local production and self-consumption of energy that we try to encourage with SPENs. And so I mentioned earlier the collective self-consumption not being a legal entity. I see it more ideal for sharing energy between neighbors within a SPEN, if it is allowed, as is in Spain, within a 2-kilometer range. While after sharing energy within the SPEN, there is this excess of energy at some moments of the day, then this can be sold externally or shared externally, and then this would be possible within the renewable energy community or citizen energy community. So this would integrate the SPEN into the bigger scale district or city and make this also kind of community bond. So when we looked at how the 4 countries implemented these 3 different frameworks, when we talk about collective self-consumption, I mentioned that some countries stick with the recommendations from the directive and implemented it within a building, which this is the case of Austria and Norway. While Spain has extended it to 2-kilometer range, and in the Netherlands have a regulatory sandbox approach. So it's a bit of a more limited application, and they have the approach of postcode approach. And then when we talk about the renewable energy community or citizen energy community, not all the countries have implemented it, transposed them yet. Norway hasn't done yet. The Netherlands merged the 2 concepts into a generic energy community, which, as I said, is not so good because then it would limit, I'm not sure if it includes also heat, because the citizen energy community is limited to only to sharing electricity. And many times within a SPEN, it's necessarily also to exchange heat. And then Austria has transposed both these frameworks, and Spain transposed only the renewable energy community so far. And I will not dive into detail with policy recommendations. These are available in the fact sheet. But just briefly to put a spot on some of them. So this Spain, it should be further improved, define the renewable energy community, and should be defined which legal entities are allowed. And supervising authority should be assigned for consumer protection purposes and to kind of avoid corporate capture risks. And then for this demand side flexibility, they should again further define the REC and citizen energy communities and the roles that the aggregators can play. Then regarding Norway, they need to implement the renewable energy community and the citizen energy community yet, but the existing collective self-consumption must be extended beyond the building and to allow this 2-kilometer range that could allow this neighborhood approach projects to take place. And then in the Netherlands, regarding the demand-side flexibility, it is planned to phase out the yearly net metering in favor of the 15-minute imbalance settlement. And there are some issues in this implementation, and this should be implemented as it was initially foreseen, this 10-year phase out. And then in Austria, again, the collective self-consumption should be extended beyond the building. And in Austria, there are some one-stop shops that promote renewable energy communities, and they could include also information about the renovation projects and this SPEN approach. And to conclude, I mentioned a bit that a SPEN is more than an excess of renewable energy and sharing energy. Is also about building a community, and all our projects include social sustainability. They engage neighborhoods at various stages of the project, and they provide various multiple benefits, both for the individual and the society, in terms of environmental benefits, health benefits. Also, just to give some examples for the end users, would be improved health, or this sense of community, or and for the societies, of course, reduction of greenhouse gases, or reduction of the expenditure of the public health expenditure. And all these multiple benefits, both at the individual level and society level, that are mainly environmental and social benefits, should be acknowledged in the view of course, ESG finance or the EU taxonomy. And this project should be acknowledged as being better than more sustainable than a business as usual. And we are now in the phase of defining this multiple benefits, and we're developing a multiple benefit tool for the neighborhood scale that would assist policymakers and investors to make decisions in when they assess and compare different projects. So it will be soon available on Synikia website, so stay tuned for it. And this is it, and I'm looking forward for your questions now.